But now we are going to have story time with Sam.
Thank you. Good morning. Children, would you like to come and sit at the front so you can help me mainly, but also so you don't get distracted by anything else and you can hear the story? I'm going to need some help today. Come and sit down and I'll tell you when I need you. Come on over. Come on over. So I was quite delighted when Alma told me what she wanted to speak on today, because it follows on exactly from the story that we've just been doing in the kids' groups. So that's wonderful, isn't it? Who can remember, a few weeks, I'm not going to ask that because they might not remember and then I'll look bad, won't I? A few weeks ago in Kids' Church and Dynamites, we had a competition to find out who was the strongest. Do you remember us doing it? We did thumb wars, no one was harmed. We found out who was the tallest. We found out who was the oldest. And then we had the story of how God chose a king from the family of Jesse. And they lined up all the strongest and the tallest and the oldest people. And God looked at their hearts and he said, not that one, not that one, not that one. Until in the end, they called in their youngest brother, the smallest one of them all, David. And God looked at his heart and said, yes, he's the one who's going to be a king for me. And he was anointed and told that one day he would be king. This was what God was saying to him. And so we get to the story today. And David's still looking after the sheep. He's not king yet, but his brothers have come to fight in a war. So I need some soldiers for my war, please. Great. Come on up. So I've got 3 soldiers here, 4. Is that a soldier there? 5? Okay. There's 2 armies, okay? We've got the baddies over here, the Philistines. So let's have one big person and one little person over here. And then you guys, Amy and Billy, you go over there. You're the goodies. Yes. And the armies got together. Well, they didn't get together. One was on one hill, one was on the other. There's the Philistine army. Can I hear a boo? Boo. And there's the Israelite army. Yeah! But the Philistines had a secret weapon. They had a giant. So I do need the tallest person in the room to come and help me. Craig? Craig is very tall, but he is not as tall as their secret weapon, Goliath. Would anyone like to be Goliath's head and sit on Craig's shoulders? Not you lot. Let's not break him. Any children want to be Goliath's head? No? All right, you'll have to stand on a chair then. Bring that chair over and you stand. God's people had some scary enemies, but the Philistines were the scariest of them all. And now the Philistines had come to fight them. The Philistines had a secret weapon called Goliath. Goliath was a terrifying soldier, and worst of all, he was a giant so strong and so tall and so scary that no one had ever been able to fight him and lived to tell the tale. So there they were, the Philistines on top of one hill, God's people on top of the other. Every day Goliath came out and he shouted, "Send me your best soldier to fight me. If he wins, we will be your slaves. But if I win, you will be our slaves." No one moved. No one spoke. "Chickens!" Goliath bellowed. I think probably the soldiers did a little. They mocked and taunted God's people. "Your God can't save you. I'll rip your heads off and have you on toast." His beady, greedy eyes glowered at them hungrily from under his horrible helmet, as if any minute he really might just gobble them all up. And he laughed his terrible laugh. It boomed, echoing horribly around and around the dry, dry valley. God's people froze with fear. Their eyes glazed over and they turned deathly pale. They knew if someone didn't do something quick, if someone didn't save them. But God would do something. He would send someone to save them. And now we need David. Do we have any volunteers to be David? Is that Iona putting her hand up? No. Any volunteers? Okay, Billy, would you like to be David? Okay, great. David was bringing his brothers their lunch, and he saw how scared everyone was. "Don't be afraid," David said. "I'll fight for you." "You're only a little shepherd boy," the king said, "and Goliath is a great soldier. How will you fight him?" "God will help me," David said. So the king gave him his own armor. Whoops. You'll have to imagine I'm the king, my crown's failing. Here's the sword. Can you pick up my sword? Come on, try harder. Oh, but the sword was too heavy and the hat was too big. "I don't need these," David said. And he went to the river and picked out 5 stones. There's the river. And he walked towards Goliath, step, step, step. I'd stop there. Okay, stand back a little bit, Philistine army. Goliath walked towards David. Thud, thud, thud. "You?" Goliath peered down at the small boy. "I'm little," David shouted up to him, "but God is great." Goliath laughed an even terribler laugh than usual. With just one swing of his giant sword, Goliath could finish the boy off. But David kept going. "It isn't how strong you are or how many swords and spears you have that will save you. It is God who saves you. This is God's battle, and God always wins his battles." David put a stone in his sling and swung it around. Can you wave your arm like that? Swing it around. And then I'm going to be the power of God here. Are you ready? Goliath staggered. He tottered. He tumbled. And crash! Fell down. David, Billy, can you do a triumphant hands in the air? When the Philistines saw Goliath was dead, they ran away. They ran away. They ran away. And when God's people saw them running away, they cheered. Hooray! God had saved his people. David was a hero. Many years later, God would send his people another young hero to fight for them and to save them. But this hero would fight the greatest battle the world had ever known. Thank you very much, actors. That was tremendous. I wonder if you have ever been in a situation that seemed impossible. I wonder if you have ever faced a giant. I wonder what things God is teaching you to get you ready to face the tricky situations.